Here we go with my brief discussion about the management and organization part of your plan. There's this is a section that's not going to take a lot of writing. It's not going to take a lot of narrative, but instead it's going to be a section where you're going to gather a lot of things, okay, that are mostly going to end up in the appendix. Okay, just off the top of my head, and I got to go through the PowerPoint, so I remind myself too. But things like resumes, personal financial statements, income tax returns, different things like that are all things that would be expected to be in the appendix of a business plan. So we'll go through that. But first, the one part that's going to take a little bit of narrative that you're going to have to tell me about is what organizational form did you choose? And a lot of us talked about that in brief when we did the financials, right? For the most part, people are not going to be C corporations, right? There is one exception, not for you guys here, but I've got one of the distance groups that's decided to be a C corporation. Why would they do that? Normally in this country, there actually are a lot of C corporations in our area, and usually they're farms and ranches or farm and ranch entities. And the reason they choose a C corporation is that there's some special tax advantages that they can get with the family actually living on the farmstead. Just to give you a real brief reason why people might choose a C corporation. Okay, for the most part, we wouldn't choose a C corporation because of the double taxation. Okay, we might choose one of these other entities, and we'll go through this. You're going to tell me in here, of course, which entity you chose, but you also got to tell me why. Okay, why are you going to be a partnership, or why are you going to be an LLC? Why didn't you choose some of the others, perhaps? Okay, so there needs to be a little bit of an explanation about that. Guess what? The PowerPoint's got some stuff in there that's probably going to be helpful for you. So, if you're a sole proprietorship, one owner, for those of you that are doing a couple of you, can't do that, right? Easy to establish. There are absolutely no formal requirements. John may be a sole proprietorship, right? He's got absolutely no formal requirements. He doesn't have to contact anybody and tell anybody anything. He can go start chopping wood and selling it, and he is a sole proprietor. Okay, it's truly that simple, right? Okay, but the owner also, in a case like that, has unlimited personal liability, right? Unlimited personal liability. So that can be kind of scary. If you're a poor college kid just starting off, you probably don't care, right? If they sue you and get everything you have, maybe they'd take over your student loans, and that'd be a good thing, but probably not going to happen that way, right? Owner does all these things, right? And it's not a separate tax-paying entity, meaning that all the taxes flow through to the owner, right? All the taxes flow through to the owner. General partnership is really similar to a sole proprietorship. Again, there's no formal requirements to create or operate this form. Now, if you are going to be a partnership, would I expect that you might have some things in there about your general partnership? Yeah, I would expect that you would have some stuff in there about your general partnership. You could probably find some partnership agreements and those types of things online. Just some basic agreements. They don't have to be real dramatic. I think I've said I've got a partner in one little venture that we do, and we have never formalized that partnership. It's kind of a shame on us, shame on me. I know better, right? I teach this stuff. I should do it, but it's it's one of those things that's worked fine. It's not a big deal. So, do you have a question?
In our marketing plan for the forces, it talks about legal forces. Would we put that as part of our legal forces, or?
It could be. The legal forces, you mean like under the pest, or is it the pest analysis?
Or would that be something entirely different?
No, there could be some legal things that would be within there that would be of concern, yeah. It depends on your business and those types of things. We might have to look at it individually and talk about what things might be in there, but yeah. Again, all owners have unlimited personal liability. Well, there's a couple things you can do. Of course, again, if you're a poor college kid, who cares, right? If, on the other hand, you've got some assets and you want to protect those, how do you do that? You buy insurance, right? Because insurance then protects your assets. As long as you have insurance, that's to the extent, right? All owners personally hire, Unlimited personal liability for the acts of the other owners. Okay, that's a little bit scary, right? If the other owner does something, okay, you might be held responsible for their actions in that case. And that can be a little bit frightening sometimes in a partnership. So things to be aware of. It too is not a separate tax-paying entity. It files only an informational return to the IRS. Limited partnership must have 2 or more owners. Created under state law. One of those owners would be a general partner who manages the day-to-day stuff, right? The other partners are limited, and they're actually restricted in their involvement in the management day-to-day operations of the partnership, okay? And taxation issues are the same as a general partnership, however, in that all the taxes flow through to those, the tax obligations flow through to the partners in that case. Corporations can have 1 or more owners. They're created under state law also. All of the owners in corporations have limited liability, so that's a big plus, right? A negative is they're a little more costly than LLCs to create, so we're seeing a lot of people, and I haven't talked about LLCs, but we're seeing a lot of small businesses use the LLC form because they are a little bit cheaper to create generally. Corporations are subject to a lot of formal statutory rules. You've got to have an annual meeting, whether you're a C Corp or an S Corp. When I talk about corporations here, I'm talking about both of the types. The forms are C Corp and S Corp. Okay, you have to submit annual reports to the state, telling them who the officers are, who the directors are. You do have to keep meetings, and you have to keep formal records of those meetings. Okay, lawyers like these because they usually get you to. You don't have to, but they'll usually get you to go into their office once a year to have your meeting, so they can charge you $200 an hour, to preside over your meeting, if you want to call it that. A regular corporation, these are the ones that are fair. They're common because we're used to seeing them. These are the public corporations and whatnot. They're all C Corps. Okay, in order to go out and raise the vast quantities of equity financing and whatnot that they do, they're C corporations. Okay, they have to be a C corporation. Basically, that's not exactly true, but they have to be a C corporation, generally speaking, to be a public company. Okay, and it's a separate tax-paying entity, so a C corporation pays taxes itself. Okay, and then when it pays a dividend to its shareholders or in some other fashion returns capital to the shareholders again have to pay taxes on that. That's why we say C corporations are often double taxed. Probably why most of you would not choose that. Okay, an S corporation, however, you can be a corporation and you can be an S corporation, and it doesn't have that double taxation. It's really just a checkbox on the IRS form that you'd send in, and it's pretty simple. And so a lot of smaller companies, and this was kind of a preferred format of organization before LLCs became popular, and this was kind of preferred. It does restrict the number of owners. It's 75 or it's 150. I can't remember what the number is for the number of owners, but certainly for your guys' purposes, this would be a legitimate deal. Okay, LLC, I say it's a newer business form. Last couple decades, it's come into being. May have 1 or more owners. All of the owners have limited liability. It's usually less costly than a corporation to create and maintain, and it's less burdensome rules governing operation compared to a corporation. There's no, you don't have to have an annual meeting. You don't have to annually send in your officers and those types of things. I don't think you do. You might to the state, actually. I think for the LLC I take care of, I do have to file a report once a year. I can do it online. And I do think, I guess I have to put who the manager is, or who the contact person is, I think is all I have to do. And it costs $15 a year. Basically, it tells the state that we've got an LLC. And that's about it. Okay, we don't have to have a meeting. We don't have to have any of those things. It has become very, very popular for small businesses. It would not surprise me that this is the one that you guys would choose. It's also not double taxed. It's not a separate tax-paying entity. Okay, people would say that it forms the best elements or includes the best elements of all the other types. Okay. Many states, that's kind of interesting. The business interests of the owners of an LLC are protected from the claims of the owner's personal creditors. So if you had a personal liability, the LLC may be protected from your personal liability. So that's always kind of interesting too. So and that's not enjoying a corporation or limited liability partnership. Okay, I don't know if that's true in Montana. I'd have to ask an attorney about that, and I'm not sure. LLP, I doubt that many of you would do that. Okay, all of the owners have limited liability for the business debts, but in many states the limited liability offers less protection than what's afforded to owners of an LLC or a corporation. And LLPs that I'm kind of familiar with, and there are some in this area, professional. I've seen PLLPs, which are professional limited liability partnerships. What happens is their liability is limited to the actions of the partnership, but their individual actions within that partnership are not limited. The liability is not limited. So they can be sued, and thus they carry all kinds of hefty insurance for those things. So quick rundown there of the types of entities you might choose to be, types of organizational format you might take. Now, talk about this, and again, you're going to have 20 to 30, I don't know, let's say 50 to 30 pages of exhibits in your appendix. Okay, it's not all stuff that you're going to write up. It's a lot of the stuff you're just going to go find. Maybe you might have to fill out some forms and you stick them in there. Filling them out is pretty easy. It's going to take you a couple minutes. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of pages, but believe me, the amount of work or your input into them is not that difficult. It's just getting them and putting them in there. So, okay. For the most part, they're going to be included in the appendix, right? But you'll also reference them within the body of the plan. Okay, you'll reference those within the body of the plan. For example, if you were doing a restaurant, this would be in your marketing plan. But I've had people do restaurants in the past. They've had the menu, and they'll do the menu in the appendix. Well, in the marketing narrative, then you'd want to make reference to the menu is in the appendix, right? And you'll do the same thing in this management and organization section. Okay, tax returns. Now, none of you are buying an existing business, so you're not going to have access to any tax returns, right? Okay. I do want you to do this. Okay, personal returns should be included. Now, I don't give a rip about any of your personal tax returns, and I don't even really care to see personal tax returns of poor college students, okay? So you can put in fake ones, but I want you to put them in there. You can download them from irs.gov. You go to Forms and Publications. You either do in the 1040 or the 1040EZ, right? Okay, that's what everybody fills out. And you can fabricate it, okay, other than your name and address and those types of things, right? And I'm not going to show, if you want to use your real one, that's fine. I don't care about that either. I probably won't even look at it other than to see that it's there, and that's about it. So, but I don't think I want to impose upon you to actually put your real tax returns in there because I don't have any desire to see those, and you guys may want to not show those for privacy reasons, and that's fine. Okay. These are especially true, though. It's kind of good to talk about. It's especially true if you're using the income from another to help support the business. Now, probably not in this case, in this town, or in this class, and what you guys are doing. But believe me, I probably half of all loan applications that we sent to the SBA for approval, they were approved because, or at least in part because, the other spouse had a good job that would supply the family and pay for the family living, and so the person starting the business wouldn't have to rely on the business and take money out of the business in order to support their family. That was a huge deal, okay? And we verified that obviously by putting in personal income tax returns. Those are important. So might not be necessary if the applicant is single, but in many cases it still would be, okay? Single people, a lot of times people would start businesses too and they'd keep their job. Right? They're going to do this on the side, so that happened. Prudent lenders are almost always going to require personal guarantees, and so personal financial statements show us what's on there. So this is the same thing. You can go to Microsoft.com and download infinite examples of personal financial statements that you can fill out in Excel. Okay, and again, I don't really care to see what your guys' actual personal financial situation is. A bunch of poor college kids with student loans, I don't really care to see that, right? So you can fabricate what's in there as well. You probably should show that you have enough cash in there that it's going to cover what you said you were going to put, into the business, if that makes sense. You know, in your startup, you all said you were going to make a personal investment in your business, and so you probably should show that you got enough cash on your personal financial statement. That would be kind of important. But again, if you want to fabricate it, otherwise, I don't care. And you can put the real thing. You know, most of you got a car and student loan debt and little furniture and fixtures, and maybe that's it. So, right? Leases. Some of you are going to have leases. Okay. And if it's applicable, should there be a copy of a lease in there? Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. For your convenience, I have actually put a blank lease. I think it's available on D2L. If you don't, I've had students who have, if they're going to go up to the mall, for example, the mall's been really good to work with in the past, and I've had students that were talking about doing their business up at the mall, and they'd go up in the mall and give them a blank copy of a lease. They're just nice about it because they're leasing all the time, right? They have a boilerplate lease that they use, and so they get a copy of that. Other places might be willing to do some things like that. Some places won't. So if you need a lease, you could make one using the example I think that I provide on D2L. Franchise agreements. I don't think anybody in here is doing a franchise. I don't think anybody in the class is whatsoever. If so, you know, there would be a franchise agreement. That might be tough to get a hold of if there were. I think did I tell you guys about the guys that were going to do the Quiznos Hero? I wonder if they're still getting phone calls. I'll have to, if I run into them. I haven't seen the one. It's Caparud. Tyler Caparud, I think, and I'll have to see him. Resumes. Okay. Resumes are required for everybody, right? So anybody that's a part of your business, and that doesn't just include you guys that are setting up the business. In most cases, that's probably all it includes. But if you have other people that are going to be key people in your organization, you'd need a resume for them as well. And these should be real. Okay. I'm not going to grade the resumes. Okay. I love looking at resumes and nitpicking them and giving you good ideas and whatnot. And I might do that, okay, but that's not gonna be a part of the grade is how good or poor your resume is. But you need to do a resume. I would hope that at this point in your guys' college career, you guys all have resumes that are sitting on a thumb drive or your laptop or your home computer or wherever it might be sitting, so that you could produce this thing, okay, pretty quickly. Okay. Now, it's a good time for me to stop because I haven't been saying this as we've gone along. You are going to do a narrative for the management organization plan. And basically, you're going to tell me about some of these things that are in the business, right? And so in the narrative, you're going to tell me a little bit about why Mikkel is qualified to have this type of a business. Okay. You know, she's got a college degree in business and la-da-da-da-da. Okay. Little experience, those types of things. Okay, so you're going to put that type of information. That is going to be the narrative portion. It's not going to be terribly long, you know, 2, 3, 4 pages. Okay, and it's going to incorporate some of the things that are in here. You'll tell me about your organizational form. And in case I don't have it on here, the other part of the management and organization plan that's going to be important is telling me things like your hours, right? Employees, if you're going to have any, you know, kind of, you know, just how it's going to run. Right? Not the description of the business, but how it's going to run on a day-to-day basis. Those types of things. You know, we're going to open at 8 in the morning. We're going to close at 9 at night. You know, customers have a key or whatever. Licenses. Certain businesses would have certain required licenses. I don't know about food. Where's my beer gals today? They're going to have some special licenses. They needed to hear this because they're going to have required special licenses. And I bet they can get copies of those for me that they can put in the appendix. They should be able to get those relatively easily. Okay. So they're going to need special licenses. Some of you may not. I don't know about Macy if there's a special certification or something for that. Maybe not. Okay. You all need to download the name registration form from the Secretary of State's website for the state of Montana. It's a one-page PDF. You can download it, fill it out. You do not and you should not send it in unless you're actually going to start the business that you're proposing to start. Okay? If you send it in, I think it's $20 or something like that, right? But you do need to know what the process is that you would have to go through if you're going to register your name, and you should register your name, right? It kind of puts it out there then, so somebody else can't steal it or use it or whatever. Maisie, question?
Are you gonna have an outline of all this, or do we just kind of go by this PowerPoint?
Yeah, the PowerPoint's available.
Okay, so
So
we just go by that then?
Yeah.
When we're doing this project?
I would say that the PowerPoint should give you a pretty good insight, pretty good reminder.
Okay.
If not, let me know, but I would think I've got everything pretty well
Okay.
put in there. Liquor license if you need it, fuel permits, for most of you that's not appropriate or not needed. Professional licenses, again, most of you aren't doing anything like that, I don't think. Macy might be a difference, but I doubt it. I doubt that there's any kind of a certification. Okay. So the management organization plan, that's the written part, is going to appear in the body of the business plan, right? So this is the narrative portion, and it's going to be in there. And it's, again, you want to quantify some things in here, right? How many employees, what their assignments are going to be. You know, if you've got an employee or you're planning to have some employees, would a job description be appropriate? Yeah, absolutely. Would job specifications maybe even be appropriate? Sure. I don't know if you guys remember from, oh God, I don't teach HR anymore. There's actually a pretty cool website called OneNet, I think it's ONET. It's called ONET, O-N-E-T, that you can go to, and it'll give you basically job descriptions and job specifications for just about any job you could possibly think of. They may not be totally as complete as you'd like, but they're pretty darn good. Okay, so if you've got an employee or you're planning to have some employees, that's a site that you could go to that would be a nice shortcut, right? Okay, should be qualified. Who's going to be capable of filling those roles? And again, that's the specifications and job descriptions that you might have for those employees. In your guys' case, if you're running your business, then that gets back to telling me about the resume or other special training and those types of things that you might have, right? Org chart, if you got some employees, is there going to be an organizational chart? Maybe. A lot of you are single. You know, John's not going to have an organizational chart because it'd be John, right? Okay, Macy's would be Macy, so probably don't need it. But for people that are going to have maybe some employees, might need that. So, okay. Are there any questions? Any questions? I'm well within my half hour, so.
When is this due?
When is this due? Does it say?
Should be on the syllabus.
I don't think I have a perfect date on there because I haven't updated the dates as well as I should, but let's go, ooh, is it on syllabus, I think?
I have that it's due the 31st.
So the very end of March, yeah.
That was on the syllabus, so that, I don't know if that was your old one.
It might be. I thought I did that. What do I got? The marketing plan due the 10th. Is that like Sunday or something?
Yeah, you changed that.
Yeah. We should try to do the marketing plan again. You know, Friday would be nice. Get it into me and whatnot. And then end of the month in that neighborhood for the management organization plan is going to be fine. That's going to leave us April to do the description of the business, do the executive summary, actually compile your plan, and then do presentations that we'll do in class. Okay. And I may this may be a year when I haven't done it in the past, but I may require even that we got some distance students that are doing it. And there's no reason they couldn't use this same technology that I'm using, this BB Flashback that's free, and do a presentation that we might watch then in here and grade and do all those other things. So, okay. Other questions? Close enough. I'll get the due date formalized. It's not going to be right after, you know, spring break, so you're going to have a week or two after spring break to work on it. Any other questions? And go back and revise whatever things I might say on the marketing plan and stuff. So, Macy, question?
So, there's an executive summary for the marketing plan and the business plan?
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep. The executive summary for the marketing plan is really, and you could call it doesn't have to be called an executive summary, you could call it your intro or whatever for the, you know, for the marketing section. Okay? Because your executive summary for the whole plan is going to be about a 2-page. No, I mean, it's going to be a 2-page, right? Written summary, intro to your business plan. not 2 pages and 1 line. Okay, should be right at just about exactly 2 pages. Any other questions? Okay. Cool.